principle number 1, you must be a direct response marketer. So who knows what that means? Do you know the difference between brand marketing and direct response marketing? So let me explain. Brand advertising and marketing is, as we see everywhere, billboards, TV, etc., etc. Big brands that can afford to spend millions on getting their logos and sometimes their obscure names out there. You can imagine Coca-Cola spent millions, billions getting that name out there. Apple have, Nike have, McDonald's have. All big brands build their business on brand awareness. Now, with the best will in the world, none of us are going to be brands that big. Probably not going to have millions or billions to spend on brand awareness. So I would say for anyone in small or medium-sized businesses, brand advertising, brand awareness does not work. You need to be a direct response marketer. Otherwise, you are throwing money, hoping that it might work, but ultimately you're throwing mud at the walls, hoping it's going to stick, if that makes sense. So by doing direct response marketing, you can directly see what response you've had, whether it's worked, whether it's paid for itself, and physically, who's picked up the call when they've seen your marketing and advertising to actually book a treatment and to make an appointment. So just to give you an example, we use direct response marketing all the time. I mentioned my website a minute ago. You can go on there and you can download a free report. We can track where you've come from. So if you've come from Facebook to my website, we can track that, we know that. And if I start to follow you around the internet, that's because we've got little tracking pixels that know these things. And we also track and measure everything we do, in Facebook, for example. So you can see an advert there on the right hand side. The call to action at the bottom is learn more. Then from there, people are actually going on to a specific page, a landing page that talks specifically about this workshop that's in the advert, and then we can track and measure it. So we know for every, £100 we spend on Facebook ads, we know what return that's given us. So as a business owner, small business owner that's not going to be, a big multi-million-pound brand, you need to be able to track and measure everything you do, and then it must directly produce the response. So I'm going to talk more about how you do that shortly. So other ideas for direct response, you can see there's Gillian from the TV show in America. She can see there specifically, if you can see at the bottom, it says gillianmichaels.com/7 days. It's an offer that she can track because there's a specific website page and she'll know that it's come from that advert. There's another company there, social media, they're giving away something like I Do. Something to learn there that you guys could do. Could you give away something, skincare guide or something to get people's names and addresses like I Do, and then start building a relationship with them? But ultimately, all of these adverts and the ones that we do are always direct response. We're not just putting our name on a big glossy advert in a magazine or in a billboard or on telly to build our brand. We are directly measuring what we get from our marketing to make sure it gives us a return. So all marketing then should produce a measurable response that you can track, and because you need to know what's working, what isn't working. So you ultimately know where to spend money and when to stop spending money. So not like the old days, or anyone that's done print advertising where you could spend, a few hundred or a few thousand on a glossy advert in a magazine or newspaper, and then when it comes out, when it's printed, you're waiting for the phone to ring, but you don't know if the phone is going to ring or not. Ultimately, online marketing, Facebook ads, Google ads, etc., because it is direct response and because you can track and measure it, you could literally spend €20 on an advert on Facebook for 24, 48 hours and see if it works. You don't have to go and spend thousands on something and then wonder if the phone's going to ring. So that's the joy of online marketing and advertising these days. But everything you do, even if you do decide to put an advert in a newspaper or a magazine, you need to be able to track and measure it. So you need to be able to put on that advert, please quote code 123 before the 31st of December to claim this offer, or whatever it might be. But you need to be able to track and measure it. Don't just throw money on marketing and advertising that you don't know where it's coming from. And ultimately, make sure then whoever's answering the phone is asking your clients and patients how they've heard of you, how they found you. So then you're starting to collect that data, and then you really know what's working and what isn't working. So ask them on the phone and ask them when you see them for consultation, and make sure you keep track of all of that. Otherwise, you are literally throwing money at the walls, hoping it's going to stick. Mud at the walls, I mean, not money. Mud or money. Anyway, next part, I would say don't make the logo the most prominent part of your advert. You're going to waste a big opportunity. The amount of advertising I see that's, full of big pictures of, equipment or big logos, people don't want to see that. They want to see what that equipment is going to do to them, for them. They want to know the benefits. So don't waste any advertising and marketing you're doing. And on your website, by the way, have a look at your website. If if the whole thing is taken up by a big logo, you're wasting a big opportunity there. And I'm going to tell you what you should be doing in your adverts shortly. So, this is what you should be doing. Who's heard of the A.I.D.A Principle? Now, this is not a principle that I made up. It's one that's been tried, tested, used for, many, many years in marketing. But it's a principle that you should always follow in all of your marketing and all of your advertising. So, what does it mean? What does it stand for? A, attract attention, and I'm going to give you an example of this in a minute, but attract people's attention by asking a question. So, are you fed up of your lines and wrinkles? Are you considering a treatment for sagging jowls? You need to attract people's attention. In this very busy world that we all live in, your marketing needs to cut through their the noise that we're all surrounded with, and it must grab their attention. Think newspaper headline. What can you do to attract attention? Then the next step is interest. How can you stimulate somebody's interest so that they, not only you've attracted their attention, but they now actually they're a bit hooked. They want to read a bit more. Then you've got to create some desire. Now, ideally, you would do this with a video, with a testimonial. If it's a Facebook ad, unfortunately, you can't use a before and after. But in other advertising, this is when you would ideally use a before and after picture of a real patient, or you really talking about the benefits of this treatment in more detail. And then ultimately, the final A is for action. You need people to take action. It's no good doing an advert, spending money on marketing, and then not telling people what to do. So even if it's as simple as call now to book your free appointment or free consultation, or click here to learn more, and then you take them to your website, you must tell people what to do. So action, call to action must be the final part of the whole advert. So just to give you an example, back to the one that we have there on our Facebook page, we're attracting people's attention because we're asking them a couple of questions. So do you own or manage a facial aesthetics practice? Are you confused about how to use social media to stimulate interest? Do you sometimes feel uncomfortable promoting your treatments and products? Then we're giving them a bit of interest. We're hooking them to tell them a bit more about the workshop. So Practice Makes Progress is a business growth workshop tailored specifically to the challenges you're facing right now, blah blah blah, and then click learn more to register your interest. But before that, we've stimulated their desire with the video. So we've got a video there in our advert, and I would suggest any of you using Facebook, if you're not getting the results that you want to get from your posts, Facebook are a media company. They want you to spend money on advertising. And I don't just mean clicking boost post from your phone. That won't work. But actually click, create a proper advert and put a video in it, ideally with you in there. Then the call to action should ideally be learn more. And then it takes them to your website that specifically talks about that treatment. So our learn more button takes them to pamsworkshops.co.uk, and we then talk about the workshops in more detail. So you guys could do the same. Take people to that specific page on your website that talks about the treatment. Don't take them, don't get them all hyped up about a treatment and then take them to your homepage. People will instantly click off. They don't want to hunt around. You've got to make things easy for them and tell them what to do. So we've said, watch the video and hit learn more to register your interest. Great. And that was a really well performing advert. We kept it going because it continuously paid for itself. So homework then, check to see if all your marketing and advertising you've done is direct response, or did you literally just try and get the brand out there and then wonder why the phone didn't ring? So let's move on. Number 2, use multiple online and offline marketing methods. So what do I mean by that? If you've got one method of marketing, there's a chance your business is going to fall over. So most people in beauty and aesthetics, they just rely on a bit of Facebook, word of mouth, referrals, and perhaps their website. Usually 1 or 2 or 3 methods at the most. However, the more methods that you've got, the more solid your business is, the more foundations it has got there. So how many methods have you got? Online and offline. So I've just given you a few there to look at. I'm not suggesting you go from just 1 or 2 methods to suddenly implementing these overnight. That's not what I'm saying. But go through this list and actually look at how many you've got that are working well for you. And don't forget, this is about where your ideal clients are spending time. So don't just assume people aren't on Facebook. Have you actually checked? There's a thing that you can do where you can actually upload your database into Facebook to actually see if people are on there, something called custom audience. We're going to be going into that in more detail on the 13th of February when I come over to Belfast. Google Plus, massive opportunity that loads of people aren't using. Again, I'm going to be showing you how to use that when we come and do the full day masterclass on the 13th of Feb. Direct mail can work. It's good enough for Google. Definitely good enough for us as small business owners. I've done a lot of blogging and writing over time that massively helped build my business without spending money. Same with email marketing and newsletters. And picking up the phone. There's nothing, we talk a lot about online marketing, but actually picking up the phone and just having a real conversation. Haven't seen you for a while, just wondered how you are. We're getting really busy in the run up to Christmas. Didn't want you to miss out. Instagram, huge one for you guys. Very visual business you're in. PR, you don't have to spend a fortune. You can do your own PR. Definitely content education is a massive one, around really getting your word out there. And again, it's free. Google AdWords, you've got to pay for. Referrals, don't just rely on hope referrals that people will actually refer their friends to you. Tell them part of how you grow your business is through referrals, and tell them this is how you say thank you. Networking and local business partnerships. We've talked a lot about online marketing, but actually there's no substitute to getting out there and getting known in your local area. So who's got the same target market as you? Who are the sort of movers and shakers in your local area? There's always one mum at the private school that knows everybody, and when you get in with her, she can help spread the word. But there's all sorts of things going on in your local business, your local area, and ultimately you're in a people business. People need to see you. They need to come to your clinic. They need to experience your treatments. They need to see that you look real and natural. They need to, people buy from people they like. So the more you can get out there and get known, then the more referrals, the more, clients will come to you. Something I put at the bottom there, remarketing, that's something we do. Now, if you're running a medical clinic, it's quite difficult for you to do that. But if it's a non-medical, if you're running a laser clinic, then you can actually use remarketing. And that is, as I said earlier, that's when I can start following you around the internet. So again, we haven't got time to go into that today, but it is an option. It costs money, but actually is very effective and very low cost, and it's one of the great things that not many people are doing. So how many methods have you got then? I would say the more methods you have in place, like I said, you're not going to go from 1 to suddenly 10 overnight, but just see if you can implement one new method every month, because you need to protect the future of your business. You need to obviously be profitable. You need to be here to stay. There's a lot of competition, as we said earlier, and obviously the more methods you've got in place, the more chance you've got of attracting the right people where they are spending time. So if you're not sure, ask your existing clients, which methods, which social media platforms do they spend time on, which magazines do they read, and then make sure that your business appears in those places. So all of this extra methods of marketing means that you're going to be less dependent on hope marketing, hope referrals, and then less worried about profitability and paying the bills. And ultimately you'll stand out from your competition, because I bet you they're only relying on 1 or 2 methods. So home at work then, review how many client attraction methods that you've got. How many of you do you have? How effective are they? And out of that list, can you think of one that you can implement this month? So if you've not given Instagram a go, start there. If you've not tried Facebook ads, or perhaps you did try it and it didn't work, then it's time to learn how to use it properly. And again, we're going to go into that in detail when I come over in February. So, principle number 3, your marketing must speak to your clients in a way that matters to them and not to you. And what do I mean by that? So I see a lot of websites, they all look the same. They're, lots of blue and white, lots of stock images. They're all talking about, we do this, we do that, we've been in business for this length of time. And it's not really talking to that client in a way that matters to them, in terms of why are they looking for treatments. Ultimately, they've got a problem that needs, looking at. It needs resolving. It might be they've got acne, it might be they've got scarring, it might be they've got fine lines and wrinkles or saggy jowls, whatever it might be. They need the solutions that you can provide. So your marketing must speak to their needs, their desires, their emotions, and it must be benefit driven, not just we've got the Dermafrac. Well, what does the Dermafrac do? Because no one knows. We all know what it is, but do they know what it is? So make sure, go through all your marketing and actually look to see if it's really talking. So put yourself in the shoes of your clients and actually read it as if you were a full paying client. Would it appeal to you? Go have a look on your website, have a look on your social media. If it's all we do this, we do that, then you need to turn that around to really speak to your clients and patients in a way that matters to them. So you can start by knowing what your unique selling points are, your unique selling proposition. So think about what you do that's better than anyone else. What competitive advantage have you got? And don't forget, this is in a way that matters to your clients and patients. So think about this. What do you offer that no one else does? And what do you do differently? These are all potentially your unique selling points that you could then use in your marketing to attract your ideal patients and stand out in a very competitive marketplace, but ultimately use the right language that talks to them in a way that matters to them. Even on your website, on your About Us page, if you're starting to talk about, oh yeah, we've been in business for 5 years, well, so what? What does that mean to the clients and patients? That means you're going to be here to stay. You're not going to be gone tomorrow, that you're there for aftercare and service, that you build in long-term relationships, that it's all about the results. You've got to think about everything that you say. What does that mean to the patients and clients ultimately? So, another bit of homework then. Can you, and if you've got a team, can you think of 3 clear, unique selling points that you can use in all of your marketing and communications in a way that matters to your clients and patients? So go back to those 3 questions. What do you do that's different? What do you do better than anyone else? And what do you offer that no one else does? And if you're not sure, ask your clients. Send out a survey, pick up the phone. Why did they call you? What made them choose you? Why did they come back to you? Find out from them and start using their language so you can attract more people just like them. Okay? So, another bit of homework relating to this one. Just look at their marketing language and copywriting that you use to make sure it's all about your clients and not about you. And the best way to do that, less of we do this, we do that, we, or as I call it, incontinence marketing. So you'll remember it when I say that. So less we, more are you looking for this? Are you fed up with that? The more the word you is in there, the more you are talking to your clients in a way that matters to them. Okay? Hope that makes sense. So number 4, use the compound effect to maximize your profits. Now there is a great book called The Compound Effect by a guy called Darren Hardy, a very American guy. But the principles of it, just think of little small incremental changes that you can make over time that are going to have a big difference over a long length of time. So for example, if you wanted to lose weight, what would you do? You would cut down the calories that you are eating, and you would increase how often you're moving, so increase your exercise. So when you do that regularly, over time you lose weight. So what do you do for your clinic and your profits? You can use the same principle, so you can actually look at the small little tweaks you can make to increase your profits. Now today we've only got time to look at 3 areas, but actually there's lots of different areas, and we're going to cover some more of those in February. But let's look at the 3 main ones. So there are 3 main ways to grow your business. Increase the number of clients you've got, increase their average spend. So if they come to see you and at the moment they're spending on average, €100 or €150, what can you do to increase that to 170, €200? And then increase how often they come back. So if you're only seeing your clients and patients twice a year, what can you do to get them back in 3 times a year, 4 times a year? So those are the 3 main ways. Now most people jump straight to number 1. Most people come to me and they just say, Pam, I need your help. I need some more new clients through the door. Well, actually, before we even look at spending loads of money on getting new clients through the door, what can we do to maximize your existing clients in your existing database? What can we do to get them spending more, and improving or increasing the amount of times they come back to the clinic? Let's look at those first before you look at spending lots of money getting new clients through the door. It's a lot cheaper, definitely. So option 1 then, if you did decide to implement some of those marketing methods that we've talked about earlier, and perhaps the number of new clients you get went up by 10%, just a little bit of an increase, then you just increase the average spend. So it went up by, like we said, from €150 to €165, for example. And then just a small increase of the number of times that people actually come back in and purchase. So perhaps you've tied them into a treatment plan, perhaps you've given them, other options that makes them want to come back to your clinic more often. What can you do to get them coming back? Ultimately, if you make 3 very small changes here, how much do you think your turnover, your revenue will increase by? So if you did this next year, just this alone, your turnover would increase by 1/3. Now that's quite a lot. Ultimately, it's profits, of course, that's the bottom line, is the most important thing. But there's some small tweaks there. So the compound effect, remember that, small little incremental increases. If we upped it a little bit and we thought, right, actually, do you know what, by the end of 2018 I want to achieve a lot more than I did this year, and I'm actually gonna implement some marketing that Pam teaches me today, and I'm going to come back in February and I'm going to see her and I'm going to learn more about marketing, and I'm going to get 30% more new clients through the door. And then I'm going to increase the average spend just by 20%, because I'm going to offer some more treatments, I'm going to offer some retail, some skincare, some colour science makeup, and then I'm going to get people coming back through my clinic doors by another 30% because I've tied them into a treatment plan. I've done amazing things to really get, you know, our service talked about. We've got great reviews. People love us. You know, we're streets ahead of our competition, and people are coming back in to see us more often because they love how we make them feel. We love how, you know, they love how their skin looks. They love the relationship that we've got. And ultimately, we've really worked just on these 3 areas. If you did that for next year, sounds simple, not easy, sounds simple, not easy, but guess how much your turnover would increase by if you did just those 3 things? Over 100%. That's a lot. Now, that's something that I'm working on with all of my clients who are attending my Peak Performance Practice Program next year. That's the promise we're making, that we're going to help them, work with them to double their business. So I shall tell you more about that if you come along to the February masterclass. So, ask yourself then, when you get home after today, what can you do to increase your number of new clients by 30%? Increase the average spend by 20%, so retail, you know, makeup, and getting people back in more often so they're committed to your business and they're not going to be tempted to run off elsewhere. So what can you do ultimately to double your turnover? So food for thought. So principle number 5 then, marketing success is all about testing. Now, we could sit here and talk about marketing, you know, for the next year, but ultimately it's what makes your clients and patients pick up the phone. So there is no point in you know, going away from today and implementing 10 million things and, you know, hoping that it's going to work. It's all about testing, because every business is different, every geographical location is different. What works in some areas doesn't work in others. It's all about testing. So you've got to, if you want your marketing and ultimately your business to be a success, because there is no business without clients and patients, and it all stems from marketing. So you've got to be willing to keep testing, measuring, improving. There's no point in trying something once, you know, throwing, I don't know, €100 or €1,000 at it and hoping that it works. You've actually got to test, measure and improve. Do you know, here's me talking about euros, and of course I'm talking to the Belfast group today. I do apologise, so let's go back to pounds and pence. But anyway, the principles are all the same. Apologies there. So, principle number 5 then. When it comes to testing, don't spend money on marketing that you're not willing to lose, because ultimately none of us know if people are going to pick up the phone until that advert goes out there. So you've got to be comfortable. If you're going to be spending £100 or £500 or £5,000, if it doesn't work, you know, there is a chance that it might not. So, but that's why you need to spend a small amount and then test first. So never assume things won't work, even if you've tried it before. So even if you've tried Facebook ads before, now if you try them again and you actually do it properly and you use the A.I.D.A Principle and you really do attract their attention and stimulate their interest and desire and then tell them what to do, I would say it's going to work, especially if you use video as well. So test and spend small first. So don't go throwing hundreds or thousands of pounds at it. Actually just go and spend 20, 30, 50 pounds and then see if it works. That's what we always do in all of our marketing and advertising. So test small, which means you then fail on a small level, not on a big level. Then you can correct and adjust. And I'm going to show you what that means in a minute, before you then can measure the results and then continuously improve it. So what do I mean by testing? There's lots of different things that you can test here. So I would say, instead of using an image, try video. Videos work really well in advertising, online advertising. The colours, some colours will appeal to others. The headline, don't forget, we've got to attract their attention in a way that matters to them. The layout of the advert, the actual design, you know, the copywriting must be compelling enough. It's got to be benefit driven, like we said earlier. It's got to have enough interest in there that makes them want to pick up the phone, and you've got to tell them to pick up the phone. So the call to action, you've got to test that. So we use learn more a lot. You could use learn more. to direct them to your website. You could also use Call Now, but I would say learn more, because usually if you're doing a Facebook ad, people are busy on Facebook being social and looking at videos of furry animals, and your advert suddenly appears in their newsfeed. They're not going to suddenly stop what they were doing and pick up the phone and necessarily and call you, but they might click learn more if they want to find out a bit more about that treatment. So it's a lot softer, and it's a better way of building a relationship. So you can also test the offer that's in your advert, the position it is on the page, you know, in the newsfeed versus the right hand side. Facebook offer lots of different alternatives to where to place your advert. It's best to just keep it in the newsfeed. You can test a price increase or decrease. You can test the time of day by looking at the insights and the reports that you get. There's lots of different things to test, but don't just do one advert. It didn't work and therefore you don't do it again. It's actually all about testing. So, split testing. There's lots of different ways you can do that in Facebook and in other methods, online methods of marketing. And Facebook actually do make it really easy for you to do that, so you can see which one works the best. So they've got different ways in their advertising manager of actually split testing adverts. So anyway, we will be covering more about that in February. But ultimately, when you've tested and measured your marketing, you're going to know how much it costs to attract that new client. So the client acquisition cost. So just to give you an example, if you ran a Facebook ad and it cost you £1,000, for example, I wouldn't say start there. You know, that could be later down the line, but you've got 4 new clients. Your client acquisition cost is therefore £250 per client. That's nice and straightforward. But then it's all about the lifetime value of that client. So even if, say for example, you've spent £100 on a Facebook ad and you just got 1 new client from it, you're going to think potentially, oh, that wasn't really worth it, really. I only got 1 new client. But if you know that that new client could be worth 2,000 or 3,000, it won't matter how many of those £100 that you could spend to get a £2,000 client. So, you know, those 4 clients that we talked about a second ago, if they stayed with you for 3 years and they spent £250 3 times that year, your client lifetime value is £2,250. So it doesn't matter, you know, how much you spend to get them through the door, as long as you know that you're doing everything you can to keep them for 3 years and get them coming in 3 times a year to spend £250 or more. Does that make sense? So a lot of companies set up marketing budgets, or they think, oh, this year I'm going to spend however much on my marketing. But actually, why restrict yourself to a budget? It's better to actually track and measure it and know how much it costs to get you a new client. Then you know how much you want to spend to get more new clients. That makes sense? So you need to get to the point where you know how much to spend on marketing to buy a new client. Keep testing and measuring to know what works and what doesn't work, so you can do more of what's working and stop what doesn't. Then you can literally choose how many clients you want to attract as and when you need to. So if you're in a really busy, booked for months, nice position, then you might want to switch off your marketing for a bit. But if things are quiet, then you need to turn up your marketing. But ultimately, you can only do that when you've tracked and measured everything. That makes sense. So, when you know all of this, then, like I said a minute ago, why would you limit yourself with a marketing budget? Because it is very limiting.